Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 251. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with PucksandPitchforks.com's editor-in-chief, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. We got a big podcast tonight. I just can't wait, Nick. It's one of my favorite writers coming on.
Yeah, big podcast after the big tailgate. And I got to say, Sam, before we have Steve on, because we have Steve Politi from NJ.com coming on tonight. Really excited. He wrote a fantastic piece about the Stadium Series, and if you haven't read it yet, you really should jump on. We've been telling you to subscribe to NJ.com for Ryan Novosinski, but to get Steve Politi on top of that, now it's just smart. Support local journalism, ladies and gentlemen. But I just want to talk about the Stadium Series real quick, because I know we're going to get into this Washington Capitals game that happened last night, and just the putrid effort in the third when the game was still at hand and you were dominating them for the first two periods. I thought I could not think of a better way to knock it out of the park than what the Devils and the NHL did this weekend. The Stadium Series was fun. It was lighthearted. It hit all the notes for an experience. I know you and I did not get to go to the that NHL experience in the parking lot.
Yeah,
because we were doing parking lot podcast. We had our tailgate going on. We were giving out food, giving out drinks, giving out ribs. I think 6 different people gave me ribs. It was great. I love ribs. Ribs are amazing.
Thank you to Matt. Thank you to Matt and his wild cherry Pepsi ribs.
The wild cherry Pepsi ribs were fantastic. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. And it was an experience. And here's the thing, Sam, and we'll probably talk about this with Steve a little bit. But have you been seeing some negative thought from the national media towards outdoor games after this weekend?
I haven't really been paying attention. All I've seen is positive. Positive.
Locally, it's very positive. I think everybody's thought that the NHL had knocked the ball out of the park. Getting the Jonas Brothers, I know a lot of people were rolling their eyes, but that's a big get. The Jonas Brothers sell out stadiums on their own, so to get them for an NHL game, I thought that was a big deal. And getting getting them to play Howl, or
Gaslight
the
Anthem.
goal song played, Gaslight Anthem to play Howl for every goal. That was a sick little note. It just seemed like they really hit all the aspects for Devils fans, which didn't really happen in that Stadium Series game, right? In the one in 2014, because that was the hush hush. This is a Rangers home game. We're going to pretend it's a Rangers away game, which is the same thing that happened with the Islanders the next day. It can't be a Rangers home game, but the Rangers get their goal song played, and the Rangers get the graphics when they score. But besides that, I wrote an article today because the numbers came out for the viewership, and the Devils Flyers game did, I think, close to 1.2 million viewers across all platforms. You add that to the 70,000 people in the stadium. It's a home run win just for the Devils game, not including the Rangers game. The Rangers Islanders game was another win. You obviously had more seats open because you didn't have the Jonas Brothers concert, so they got to 79,000, and then they had, I think, 1.6 viewers. Obviously, it's easier to get viewers on a Sunday afternoon than it is to get it on a Saturday night. So, obviously, the Rangers do have more fans, but the timing of it really helped them as well. On top of all this, it was such a positive experience between the tailgate, between the fan camaraderie, between everybody coming together and really seeing this moment. The jerseys, the spectacle, everything about it just really seemed to go positively. And that's before you even talk about the game, where the Devils played very well. It was a fun game. The big players played well. You had some surprise players like Nathan Bastian playing really well, but you had Nico Hischier scoring 2 goals. I just think that the Stadium Series was such a positive experience. So then when I came and I was listening to the Athletic Hockey Show, and they were kind of saying we're kind of done with outdoor games. I was like, I get it. This is the 40th outdoor game. Maybe the spectacle is gone on somebody who watches 3, 4, 5 games a night, and that's your job. But the spectacle is not gone for the fans, especially for the local fans. And that's what this is about. The outdoor game is on national TV, and it honestly, it's becoming a national TV product. Like, it's, I heard some things about the ESPN broadcast that people didn't like, but everything else about the experience, between, like I said, the spectacle, the concerts. There was a surprise Jonas Brothers concert in the second intermission. They went out and did another concert, and they sang a couple more songs, and guess
I was there, by the way. I was there. I was on road too.
Nice.
I got to feel the fire, the pyrotechnics. Like,
yeah.
I was like, I'm warming up.
Listen, I was in the press box. I got a seat on the fourth row. I just made it, Sam. I just made it in. Still in there. I met Tom Fitzgerald.
Oh,
nice guy. He had his cap on, his Boston cap. He looked like CT from the Challenge. It was kind of like weird and funny because everybody was in the same place. That's kind of how MetLife Stadium works.
Yep.
And I'm assuming they didn't give him an owner's box. So Brodeur and Kate Madigan and Sergey Brelin and all the people who are up usually in like Harris's box at Prudential Center had to be just like mingling with us. And it was just like, it's very awkward because he I don't pretend to do this as a journalist. I'm a blogger. I'm having fun. I'm here to to continue conversation. So I'm not going to corner Fitzgerald and ask him a bunch of questions, but I introduced myself because it's been a while since I've been on this beat, if you want to call it. And it was fun. Like, everything was great. All the guys were mingling. Chico came up I was sitting with Ryan Novozinski, James Nichols, Josh from the Hockey Writers, John from Pucks and Pitchforks. We were all sitting at a table together, and Chico comes up and goes, "You must be the Knights of the Round Table." But it was just funny. It was like I was with all the guys on the beat, just kind of like sneaking my way in there. But it was, I mean, to say this experience for any of the fans, I haven't heard one negative experience if anyone was there. Not one. And
it must have
for
been
anybody
the ribs.
to say anything.
It must have been the ribs and the Anchor stew in the parking lot.
Anchor stew, and I finally tried the Anchor brew, and it's I got to tell you, Sam, I'm in trouble.
It's a good beer, isn't it? Our very own podcast beer is a very good beer.
Because I didn't bring any home to my wife.
Oh, don't worry about it. I got you covered. Somehow I'm gonna have to figure that one out.
She was like, "Oh, what does it taste like?" I'm like, "It tastes like a really good like Yingling Light. Like it's kind of like the taste that it kind of has." And she goes, "You didn't bring me any?" She's like, "Thanks." I was like, "I'm sorry, Arlette drank the last one."
Don't worry about it. There's going to be a beer run down South Jersey. Before we let our next guest on, I have a question for you about the press box because I've been. That was actually my 6th outdoor game. 6.
Okay.
Second as a fan. The press box. Did they expose you to the elements? Because I went to Rangers Flyers, I believe in 2012 at the ballpark, and they actually opened up the windows so you could feel the cold, and then hear all the trash talking between the fans as well. Did they do that up there or no?
No,
they didn't do that.
That was the one negative, and Steve could probably attest this, but it muted a lot of the sound, so it's trying to. But like I heard from a lot of people out there that said it was a very pro Devils crowd, and it was a very Devils heavy crowd, and like the sound made that very clear. Yeah. It was just muting a lot of the sound in the press box.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to do the introductions? I'm nervous because it's one of my favorite writers.
Sure. I'd like to welcome one of the better writers out there writing about all kinds of sports, but Steve Politi from NJ.com coming and joining us on the Let's Go Devils podcast. And Steve, thank you so much for coming on, first of all.
Of course, guys. I'm glad to do it. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was reading your article that I think you put it on Sunday or Monday where you were talking about the stadium experience and the experience, and just wanted you to kind of go into that. Like, what did you think of the spectacle on Saturday?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was exceeded my expectations, and I think the reason why I went in with low expectations was what, the 40th outdoor game or 41st outdoor game. I mean, there was sort of a feel of, been there, done that. Like I was cracking the joke. It's like hockey, only it's outdoors. I was making it the entire time. But what I think I discounted was the fact that obviously the Devils fans haven't had a real chance to experience. I don't really count Yankee Stadium. It's not the same thing. And the other part of it is, and I don't know if you guys talked about it, but like I heard from a lot of people that it was a nostalgic moment for especially fans closer to my age of going back to the Meadowlands, of being in that parking lot, of looking at the old footbridge and the old arena. And it's funny because like I just that didn't even occur to me when I was thinking about it, that for me leaving Continental Airlines Arena was like, goodbye. I hope I can come back someday and blow you up. I hope I can be the guy who pushes the detonator. But I get it that like for fans, it probably that's a lot of good memories in that place. So being able to see it, being able to play hockey in the parking lot with a beer can, I heard a lot of people talking about that part of it, which I really didn't think about it until I got there and saw just how many Devils fans there were. And you guys really showed up. I mean, it was special.
And that was the thing. And Steve, I wrote about this week. Just that experience specifically was the parking lot experience, because that's the one thing that's kind of different, right? Is that Prudential Center, obviously it's a big upgrade. The location is much better. It's right next to the train station. It's easier to get there. The parking lot situation is better, but it's not a parking lot that it induces itself to tailgating. Like, it's a lot of paid parking places that don't want you to hang around. They want you to just kind of park and go to your thing. And then you go to American Whiskey or you go to Reds or whatever. But that kind of encloses you, right? You're not exposed to a lot of other fans, and most people just go inside. I feel like it's that experience that brings that nostalgia. It's just kind of like people were jumping from our tailgate to, I know Bracket Pack had one close by, and there was other people who had big tailgates. And I know, a colleague of yours, Greg Wyshynski, was bouncing around, and that was kind of part of his beat, was just kind of seeing what's going on in the parking lot. And he saw a lot of really fun things. And, I saw a guy go through a table, and then, so it was a lot of fun. It was I call it a once in a lifetime experience, but obviously I'm 35, so I do remember that Continental Airlines Arena experience, when I was younger. I just didn't, I wasn't old enough to have the adult beverages with a lot of the other people who were indulging. But I do remember the experience. But that was kind of the thought. I looked at it from a different space because I was there, and I wasn't partaking because I was in the press box, but it was just a different look to know what people were doing, how they were acting. Did you see anything fun going on in the parking lot? Did you see anything?
Yeah, memorable? I mean, I didn't spend as much time as Wiz did out there, apparently, as a Devils fan and a Jersey guy. I'm sure he got a lot of it too. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a Giants game experience, but not really though. It was just a different kind of, a lot of hockey sticks, a lot of kicking the can. So a lot of playing with the cans, goals set up. I mean, it was just cool. And then you can't discount the fact that the team thought it was cool. These guys, pro athletes, just think about that. Anytime you can take a bunch of guys making millions of dollars and have them dress up as Guidos or from Sopranos extras and just completely embrace it. Some of the stuff like Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt carrying the freaking espresso cup, and the way Nate Bastian looked, it was just we saw him on the way, and I'm like, holy crap, he really does look like he could be standing behind Christopher Montesani and at the bada bing, and you'd be like, you wouldn't even blink. Yeah, I mean, they really seem to enjoy this part of it too. I think they added to it. I think you could feel that. The season's a grind. It's 82 games. You're playing in a lot of the same arena a million times. Something new and something that was kind of contagious too. And they fed off the crowd. I really believe that. They talked about it. They said some of them, guys like Nico, some of them were just seemed gobsmacked by it. And I kind of wrote about it. I don't know if I got the point across, but Devils have always had this moment where they get overshadowed by, they play the Rangers in a playoff series and there's 8,000 Rangers fans in the building. It's it's just frustrating to see that. But this is a moment where all right, this is your moment on stage. And how many Flyers fans were there? I couldn't even notice them. I mean, it was really not many, not certainly. They didn't, had probably, I would say 85 to 15% breakdown for the crowd. So, I mean, that part of it, I think they really appreciated that. And obviously, the game couldn't have been any better from that standpoint too.
Well, that's a surprise, right? Because the Flyers are like higher than Devils in the standing. This isn't like a bad Flyers team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you would think they would make the trip up.
But they didn't.
Sorry.
So that's good for us. And it was a lot of fun. It was great to kind of just be there and just see the elements and everything. But as with a lot of big Devils wins this year, it's followed by a pretty deflating loss. Last night against the Capitals, the Devils lost. I don't even remember the final score, to be honest. I think it's 6-2. They were better than the Capitals in periods 1 and 2 and went into the third period losing. And then, once they scored that third goal, the wheels fell off and Dawes couldn't stop anything and the offense couldn't generate anything. And it was just bad from top to bottom. So as you look at this team and the team that you saw last night, what are we thinking? Are we thinking, and then on top of it, it was Flyers or Islanders OT win over the Penguins, so everybody gets points. The Rangers won. The Red Wings won on Monday. Where are you thinking? Are you thinking the Devils are kind of blowing their chance to make a push for the playoffs?
I mean, short answer, yes. Then they've just lost. They've lost that game. They've lost some version of that game too many times this year. I mean, how many points have they thrown away against an inferior opponent? And they didn't do that last year. It seems like every time they played a bad team last year, they stomped on their necks and moved on. I guess I'm kind of looking at it like these next 5 for me will tell you if they're going to have a chance. Not if they're going to get there, but they're going to have a chance. I mean, even if you take out, looking at the schedule, if you take out the Rangers, which okay, their Rangers are really good. They're playing at a high level. But after that, I mean, if you don't get points in every one of these games, right? I mean, Montreal, Tampa, San Jose, Anaheim, Los Angeles. Like if you don't get 9 points there, and if they do that, you would think they would at least be in a spot then, right? They would catch Detroit, or they'd be right there with Detroit. Then I'll give them a chance, because the schedule is pretty tough. That look down the stretch, looking at like 3 against Toronto, you got Vegas, Florida in there. It seems like they've got a lot of high level opponents, but this for me, I'm not ready to declare them dead, but I certainly will be ready to do that if we're sitting here next or Thursday, March 7th, and they haven't picked up a bunch of points.
So that being said, where are you at where it comes to like the trade deadline? I've seen some teams make trades to try to get into the playoffs. We've seen teams like the Blue Jackets are probably the most famous example of this, where they went all in to make the playoffs, and that was they beat Tampa. I think it was 2019. Do you think that losses and wins are impacting Tom Fitzgerald's decision making right now, or do you think he's going in full steam ahead because he wants guys with term?
I don't know, and I wish I knew. Honestly, I just don't understand. I would think they would have made this deal already. Like it just seems like a no brainer. Like even if you're not going to make the playoffs this year, you can't have watched the first 55 games of this season and think, oh, we're okay goaltending wise. There's just no way you could have reached that conclusion if you're a GM of like, and I'm not saying like I've given up on Vanacek. I think most of the fans probably are, if they're not there, they should be there. Even if you think Nico Dawes is got a good upside and he might be the future, it's not a guy you're going to play, 50 games now. He's not ready for that kind of workload. You need a guy. So why not make the move now with the eye on the future? I mean, honestly, I just don't understand why they haven't gotten Markstrom. He would be my first choice. I understand, if you've got a different opinion on one of the other guys who are available, but it feels like everything you read, they're having conversations, and maybe it's just one of those, waiting for someone to blink. Look, I don't know what the asking price is, but the Devils certainly have all the prospects they need. They don't need draft picks. Like it just seems like they should have done this already. I'm kind of surprised by it. And now we're at the point, like we talk about it, if they have a bad week here, they could be 8 points out. And then you're like, all right, well then, then forget it. So I wonder what's going on myself. I don't have that answer, but I feel like he's waited too long.
Yeah, and I was kind of asking you if you thought it's been too long, and so you answered it already. But I here's what I think is happening. And Steve, kind of like tell me if I'm kind of just going off base. I think the prices have been crazy for goalies. I think they're asking for like a first plus for Jake Allen, like things like I think it's just insane. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are pretending Elvis Merzlikins has value instead of the negative value that he actually is. And then obviously I think the only reason that Saros is even getting mentioned there is because they want a piece like Nemitz, and obviously the Devils aren't going to do that. So, but as far as Markstrom's concerned, I think the Devils circled him earlier than other teams. They tried to jump on it, but I think they tried to get Hannafin in that deal too. And I think the Flames think they can get a pretty good haul for Hannafin, which is not wrong. Like Hannafin's probably the best defenseman on the market. So the Devils tried to do the old 2-for-1. As it became clear that was going to be too expensive, Markstrom's value went through the roof. So if you try to make this trade in early January, you could probably get Markstrom for a second-round pick and a prospect. Maybe a little bit more because he has term. But if you weren't asking them to retain it all, I think you could have got it for maybe a first and then just call it a day. But I think it was a second-round pick and a good prospect. But now you're looking at a first and a young NHL player and maybe also a prospect on top of it. So the value, I think, just went so far past, and I think that they're going to work out a deal, but I think it's going to, like you said, I think it might be too late. What do you think? Do you think that?
Well, wouldn't you do that? The deal you just described, wouldn't you make that deal with a first, a young NHL prospect, Holtz? I mean, you would not, and then somebody in your farm system, you wouldn't make it for a goaltender at this point? I don't know. I just look like this is always my perspective.
I think there's no point. I think you could get it for less in the offseason, and I think there's no point in doing it. At this point, I wouldn't say in January. If you ask me in January, when they're coming out of the Christmas break, and there's still plenty of time to get back into this race, and a lot of teams that look kind of fugazi. Yeah, like I then you're talking something different. But now it's just I don't know. But I heard Kevin Weeks on NHL Network today say that the Devils are very intrigued by that playoff revenue because they made a lot of money last year, and losing that is going to is something that they don't want to do. And that's something we don't really talk about a lot, right? It's not like we don't talk about the economics of making the playoffs very often. But that, Tom Fitzgerald, I don't think particularly cares about that, except for the fact that, Josh Harris and the Harris Blitzer Sports Emporium cares about that. So now Fitz has to care about that. So that might push a deal, right? Like the economics of sports sometimes pushes trades through. Do you agree with that?
I think that's a big factor of it. Yeah. I mean, that's the amount of money the Devils made in the old days, having 16 or whatever the hell it was, home dates in the playoffs. I mean, that changes their, bottom line from a negative to a pretty nice positive. If someone told me at one point it was $1 million a game, I don't know if that's true, but whatever it is, it ain't bad. So you look at it from that standpoint, absolutely. But I think it's also just from the team. You want this team to have that continue to make that progression. Like if you're looking at it, I think it would be, I don't know, devastating is not the right word, but it would be detrimental to the growth of a lot of these young guys to suddenly have this thing end on, what is it now, April 15th, to have the season over at that point. Think about how much that team grew from those experiences of first coming back and beating the Rangers, but then even losing to the Hurricanes. They saw what a better playoff team looked like. They learned from that experience, and you forget that like they're still talented enough that they could go on a run. And this doesn't have to be a one thing and out. I mean, the one thing you learned about this team is that they can go on streaks. I mean, we saw that at times last year. No reason to think that if they get it, it's not like you're just betting on it to get into it. I mean, once you get into it, I don't know. Took down the Rangers last year. They've certainly proven they can play with anybody. So, I think there's a lot of reasons to do something.
Florida made the final, and they were
Florida exactly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. So it's definitely something the Devils can do. They just have to get hot, and they have to get a better goalie, or Nico Dawes has to become Superman. Something crazy has to happen. Speaking of something crazy, tomorrow it's Devils Rangers. And we talked about coming off a loss last night. How big of a game is this for the Devils tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think it's. again, like I don't. This is not to me the one that if they lose this game, it sinks it. But if they win it, then I think it could be a pretty good moment for them, crystallized to remind them. Just like I thought that was what happened with the Flyers. Like that game was like a reminder to this team, like, hey, look, guys, we're a good hockey team. And of course, the next game they throw it away. So like I don't know if that could happen again. I mean, they could go beat the Flyers 5-1 and then, crap it away against Montreal. Who knows? I mean, it's just really a hard team to read sometimes with stuff like that. But I mean, we keep on looking for, moments that'll kind of give you a sense. It might be at this point that you just need to have, it's got to be a 4 or 5 game winning streak that'll give you that sense. It's not just the one. We're not looking at something where it's one game that'll do it. They might need to prove they can string 3, 4, 5 in a row to kind of make believers out of all of us.
Yeah, and I don't disagree there. I think that, but you just laid out the schedule. So if they win tomorrow night, they could very well do this. Montreal, I know Tampa's pretty good, but Montreal, Tampa, Anaheim, and
Los Angeles,
Los Angeles, and then San Jose's in there too. So it's like those are all games that not only can you should win. And then you come home.
And for me, like,
you have,
I don't know if you like watching the outdoor game. Like, I kind of walked away. Like, the Flyers are no good. Like, I don't get the sense that they're like. I get it. They're 5 points up in the standings, but like, I don't even feel like you're chasing just Detroit. Like, I mean, I think that team is gonna be struggling to get in, get down the finish line, and keep that playoff spot. So it's kind of like 3 teams for 2 spots. If you kind of look at it that way, I don't think anybody's going to catch the Devils from behind. I get it that maybe the Capitals look hot or the Islanders have got. I mean, obviously with the goaltending there, they could. But for me, that's kind of how it breaks down. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you, especially with their goaltending situation. Everybody knows why Carter Hart's not there, but he's not coming back. So and Urson looked good for a lot of the season, but he's kind of seems like he's hitting that rookie wall, and they don't really have a backup, right? So I think is it still Peterson? Is Cal Peterson their backup? I think either way, it's they're not good, and I don't think that's a team that can be not good in net. I don't think they have the firepower. I think they have fine defensemen, but not great defensemen. So I do think that they're vulnerable, and I think that 5 points or not. We talked about the Panthers earlier. The Panthers were more than 5 points out at later than this. You kind of need some luck, and the Devils, they're getting their guys back. Siegenthaler came back last game, and he was kind of one of the last few injuries that is actually coming back. Obviously, Hamilton's not coming back, but I do think that this team has playoff potential. They just need to get consistent.
Yeah, and consistent, and then I want to see what I'm interested in seeing against the Rangers. Like, is Jack Hughes going to throw this team on his back for a stretch? And I get it. Like, I saw the stat on TV, fastest to 50 points. I understand he's coming back from injuries. It's not been an easy season for him, but that's what stars do. And someone told me, I can't remember who said it, but people pay to watch him. I've read that somewhere, right? I mean, this is the time if you're going to be.
Somebody said it.
Somebody said it. I don't know. I don't know who said it. It sounds familiar. But this is the time, right? This is the time for him to be the dude.
Yeah, he's always come back slow from injuries. It took him 10 games last year. Even in that great stretch last year, it still took him 10 games to look like himself. He can't. They don't have that much time this time. They don't have, because it took him 10 games to look like himself from the last injury earlier in the season. They don't have it this time, so he does have to kind of pull a Superman move and put this team on his back. But Steve, we're at time. I don't want to keep you longer than we said we would, but I do want to give you just a couple minutes just to promote what you got going on, promote the Stadium Series piece that I absolutely loved, and everything else you're doing for NJ.com.
Yeah, I got nothing. No, I mean, I appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say. The one thing I will promote my dude Novo, if I can promote somebody who's just been a kick-ass beat writer. If you haven't subscribed to NJ.com for him yet, then I don't know what you're waiting for. No, he's great, and he's put up with me. I mean, it's funny sitting in the press box, and some of the questions I ask him just because I haven't been paying attention. Or it's a great moment. He'll tell the story. We're sitting in there, and you were in the press box. Like, it's so far up above, the ice. Really, you didn't feel like you were there. I would have wished we could have gone in the crowd and watched a little bit. At one point, I look out there and I'm like, wait, there's a dog. What's the dog doing out there? Wait, there's a stroller. And Novo had to explain to me, no, see, that's like a little park area. It's like he's talking to Grandpa about explaining to me what's happening on the field down there. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. There's a little park area. I see what's going on. There's several dogs. Okay.
He's
I
just
don't understand it, but
I do. I feel like I'm like trying to somebody's trying to explain TikTok to me every time I talk to Novo. So it's fine.
It's right.
I get it. It's like so you
need that person in your life. That's in my life. That's Novo. It's great.
What's the new social media, kiddos? Yeah, that's me
what
talking
are you
to
kids
Novo
doing now?
Yeah. Hello, fellow kids. I'm walking up with my skateboard trying to get information. Steve, I really appreciate you taking some time with us. This has been a lot of fun. Stadium Series is great. And again, go read his piece. You should. We've talked Novo up enough for you to be subscribed to NJ.com right now. But if you're not, this piece alone is worth it. Go pay the money. Go support local journalism. Go read Steve Politi's piece. But Steve, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Anytime, guys. Let's do it again if they make the playoffs.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Nick. Take care.
That is Steve Politi. NJ.com. Star Ledger. I liked him on the Star Ledger versus the NJ.com back in the day. No, I'm just kidding. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, I used to
listen. I remember it was kind of funny. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I remember growing up, I was an Asbury Park Press kid, right? That was the newspaper of note. But every time you want sports, you do Star Ledger because Asbury Park Press is very local, like Jersey Shore Conference sports and stuff like that. But if you wanted, like, I want to read about the Devils. I want to read about, I wasn't a Giants or Jets fan, but I was curious about the Giants and the Jets. I want to read about the Yankees. I was curious about the Mets. So I would grab the sports section and just read it all. But why not? Like, everything looked interesting to me, and that's how I was as a kid. And it's just like it's a different feeling. But then when I'm sure I've read dozens, if not hundreds of times that Steve has written, and all of them. You read Larry Brooks for so long. He's a guy, a friend of the podcast, and all these guys that Stan Fisher. I mean, we've read. I don't even know. I've listened to a lot of Stan. I don't know how much I've read. I know I've read plenty, but you listen to Stan and just hearing him talk, have that iconic voice, and it was good, just being around those guys because it was interesting. You had the guys like Novo, or Ryan Novosinski, and you had the guys like James Nichols who are new to the beat, not new, but like relatively like to these other guys. And you had Greg Wyshynski who's hanging around, and he's been around. He's always around Devils hockey, but he's been a national guy for when did Puck Daddy come out? Is that 20 years now?
Oh boy.
It's got to be, right? It's got to be 20 years since he's been in the public eye.
2004, around that time, the new NHL had the new
I think
media.
He was reporting the lockout, or not reporting. He was like talking about the lockout. I think so. But and it was cool. It was cool. It was like, and again, like, I'm not a celebrity guy. I'm usually not intimidated by people. I was in news for a long time. I've talked to big people in movies and sports and politics, and it's never really like intimidated me, but that's because like it was always my job to be a journalist, right? I was they knew I was there for a reason, and then they had a reason to be there. I had a reason to be there. This one felt a little weird though. Like I didn't feel intimidated by the players, which is weird because you walk in the locker room. I'm not a short guy, Sam. Like you see me, like I'm about 6'1". I'm somewhere between 6 foot and 6'1". Like I'm not a tiny person. But you walk in the locker room and like Simone Nemitz is 19 years old, and I'm like, "Hi, can I ask you a couple of questions?" And then honestly, like you always make yourself like I always end up making myself look like an idiot when I do it for the Devils because I'm like, just like, all right, like you need to like make an impression because I'm representing a lot of writers. Dan Rice is in the locker room. I've always had Pucks and Pitchforks guys in the locker room, so it's like, all right, you overthink it a little bit. And I asked Shimon a question about, I was like, does this feel like World Juniors? Like, you've been to Spectacles before. And he just looks at me and goes, this one was outside. I was like, thanks, Shimon. I'm going to go. I said that. I was like, all right, thanks. You're good. I'm going to go. Because I was like, all right, like, you're reaching for something. Because you always want to ask an interesting question, something that stands out, something that's kind of, like, different, something that'll give you a story. And again, he was very courteous. He's a nice kid, but he just, like, looked at me and was like, well, this one was outside. And that's when you know you're kind of like, all right, like, thanks, Shimon. Appreciate it. Have a nice night. You had a good night. But I talked to Hala. Hala gave. I shared his answer on Twitter, on the Pucks and Pitchforks feed, where he talked about the message he sent about playing an outdoor game, because Hala is one of 3 players who played an outdoor game. I wanted to talk to Toffoli, but he wasn't in the locker room, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. But Toffoli, did you know this, that Toffoli, when he scored, he's tied with David Pastrnak for the most outdoor goals, or most goals in outdoor games in the history of the league?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So Toffoli had a lot of really good history with outdoor games. You know, he scored that hat trick when he was with LA. So he's a guy who's, you know, always stepped up in these situations. The other guy, I think it was Brendan Smith, who had an outdoor game. I think it was with the Rangers. I'm not 100% sure, but I think, you know, he had an outdoor game, and he scored a goal. So all the guys from the outdoor games had the game of their life. They had that experience, and they really, like, stepped up. And then Lindy Ruff obviously was the coach of Buffalo when they were at the Winter Classic. And was that 09?
08.
08. It was 08. So he was the first Winter Classic?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just, something in my head said that can't be true, that he was the coach of the first Winter Classic, but he was. So the first Winter Classic, Lindy Ruff was the coach. So obviously a long time ago, but outdoor game is outdoor game. Lindy Ruff has that experience. And so great experience overall. We had a ton of fun with the tailgate. I want to thank you, Sam, for putting all the work in to make sure that we put on a good show. You know, we come in, we try to have fun, but it's always you putting together stuff. So I want to thank you live on air for everybody, and everybody should thank Sam, because it was so much fun to get everybody together, to get Chico, to get Novo, to get James Nichols, to get Sam Kassan of the New Jersey Devils came and spoke to us, and to get Arlette. Like, it was a really great lineup. It was a really good collaboration. It was the first time that, Vinny Parisi has been working for me for 7 years, Sam.
Wow.
7 years Vinny Parisi has been working for me, and that was the first time I met him in person. It was the first time we got Scotty and Vinny together with you, me, Short Sky, and Beer Baron. And these are the stories that we got from this. You know, this event brought people together. It brought Devils fans together. There was no drama. There was no, complaints about the coach, complaints about the defense, complaints about the goalie, complaints about Jack Hughes, complaints about the power play. Like, none of that. It was all collaboration. It was all good time. It was all fun. I loved every second of it.
I did too. You know what? During your interview with Steve, he was talking about, the tailgate and even Wyshynski even alluded to that it's, kind of in our DNA, and I think you wrote that on pucksandpitchforks.com, that do you know how seamless that was, that tailgate? Because a lot of my friends were there. It's as if
what do you mean seamless?
Like, what I mean by seamless is, going into this tailgate, we were so experienced because of the past that it was just like, not a problem. You know what he did? He has a little trick of putting the tent down. He actually screws it into the asphalt. Like, that stuff.
Nice.
Like, yeah, don't tell MetLife that. Let him suffer.
What are they going to say now?
What are they, after what they did to us with that M2 parking lot, which I'm still griping about? Did you hear what happened to the Rangers fan? It was on the New York Post, and for the outdoor game for the Rangers Islanders, he bought 8 tickets, and somehow those tickets were used by somebody else, and MetLife Stadium did nothing, absolutely nothing, other than oh, you can go get a refund. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's the way MetLife Stadium and the NJSCA, that's the way they treated us when we were at Brendan Byrne and Continental. It's the same.
I got to tell you what, though, Sam.
Yeah.
I think that's a stadium policy in a lot of places because that happened to my wife. She got tickets to Britney Spears, and they were fake. I don't know if they were fake or if they were doubles. I think the same thing happened where somebody had already scanned them, so they sold them to multiple people. And only the first person who bought them got them. She got her money back, but she didn't go.
He bought it directly through Ticketmaster. That's what the article said. So there was something to that effect.
Like a glitch.
Yeah. So, and they did nothing, and they were heartless. And it's like, well, I felt, and I still feel this way, that the Devils' existence from 1982 to 2007, they were all road games. Because we always had a problem with NJSCA security because they hired a union from New York and they were all Ranger fans. Like, it was a disaster at times. Like, I could go on and on and on in stories of how bad it was, the Meadowlands, from that perspective. Now, I don't want to spoil a good time and rehash the past, but that stuff doesn't even surprise me. Like, you're on your own. Like, there were times even before I think the period of time between 2004 to 2007, it was a bad divorce between the Devils and the NJSCA because the Devils were leaving to Newark. The way they treated the fans, and I actually was reminiscing with someone about this today. The Meadowlands was such a different world where if the United Nations went in there and saw what they were doing, they'd be shocked.
It's excessive, but okay.
No. If you want, I could tell you stories, but, and a lot of people would agree with me. A lot of people would agree with me. But anyway, it was a good time. We got through it, but the point I'm trying to make is we have it so good right now at Prudential Center. Even though I miss the tailgating aspect of it, we have it so good at the Prudential Center because they actually welcome you, into the building. So that's all I have to say.
For sure. And yeah, I people complain about the Prudential Center and the Rock. I really like the Rock. I like where it is. It's just missing that tailgate experience. And honestly, if they did something once a year, and I wrote about this, do a tailgate experience once a year. Yeah, Sam, you're the only other person here, Sam. You could talk.
I'm going to interrupt you on that.
First of all, did you read my article about it?
Yes, I did. I actually read it.
Okay.
That's the only article I read all week. But that's the one I read. But there is a way of doing it, though, because I had a friend, and I'll call him, that knows one of the lot owners. I don't know if they're still the lot owners of one of the lots outside of Prudential Center. There is a way to pull off a tailgate, but it's going to take a huge collaboration of many fans to get it done. Maybe we should take the lead on it.
The Devils should do it.
Oh, screw that.
No,
the
Devils
should. Up.
No, here's why.
All right.
Well, if you want to do it The Rock, if you want to do take over one of those parking lots and do it there, that's fine. That could be fan led, that could be us led, that could be simple. I want you to to go to the Meadowlands, rent out their parking lot for a night, and have all the Devils fans do that exact tailgate experience, and then have the Devils fans bust to the arena. And I know it's not going to be the same, but what's the bus from East Rutherford to Newark?
They'll never make
20,
it in
25
time.
minutes.
In rush hour?
It's too
Are you
long.
kidding me?
Wait, yeah. Well, I mean, it would be after rush hour, right? Maybe do an 8 o'clock start. Try to to get away from that.
Nick, I could tell you never went to the arena, the old arena. back in the day too often.
I mean, I did. It was like 9.
Yeah, no. Nick, that could take hours, unless you had a
Okay.
police escort. That would take hours. I used to get stuck on Route 3 for like an hour and a half. Like I would actually leave my home on a Friday afternoon around 3 o'clock, and there are times where I didn't get there till puck drop. To the Meadowlands.
But I'll tell you, but there's that one good parking lot. Again, like these are all owned by different entities, though, right? They're not owned by Prudential Center or the Harris.
The key is, from what I remember, my friend tried to pull it off. Fred tried to pull it off. I think it's something with, if you can get enough fans to pull up enough money to get that insurance for that one day, they would be willing to do it. But I'd have to.
We're talking a couple grand, tens of thousands. Like, where were we looking?
Well, instead of paying like $30 to park, you may have to pay $40 or something like that. Something. Yeah, it's nothing bad. It's just I have to ask Fred, because he had this whole idea, and I was all for it. It just never came into fruition. It would be great if we had our own, tailgate, the podcast. JoinOurCrew.com. We'll plug it that way, and just like for one game, we'll get group tickets inside, so to make the Devils happy, right? We'll figure out how to do the parking. Now, in terms of the drinking in the parking lot, all that kind of stuff, I don't know how that's going to go, how that's going to fly, but that would be kind of cool to do. And of course, we could do it in the middle of the parking lot, because we did it in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah.
At the Meadowlands. I mean, that would be kind of cool to do.
You had a lot more issues with signal at the Meadowlands than you would in the middle of Newark.
Oh yeah, well, there's more people in that vicinity at the MetLife. I mean, you're talking about, let's say, 80,000 people in that one little versus, you're talking maybe 40,000 at most. Plus, you have City Hall nearby.
I mean, that's I mean, it's still probably I mean, maybe, but. A lot of those people are connected to their personal Wi-Fi's, right? So if they're just sitting at home, their phones are going to be connected to Wi-Fi. So, but yeah, I mean, 40,000 maybe is a safe number, but again, it's you're right, it's not even close. Like it's half.
Yeah.
I just think it's something like, again, I the traffic. You're right. But again, we're also kind of. What if we do this on a Saturday? Like, you think traffic on a Saturday it'd still just be impossible?
Wait, it doesn't make sense. So you want to do a tailgate at the Meadowlands,
and
then bust over?
Correct.
I don't know, Nick. I'm not feeling it.
It's just a once a year type of thing. Right, it's like a specialty event trying to bring the nostalgia. They just need to make the parking lot work once a year. Like, this should be a once a year thing. The feeling we had this week.
If anything, can't they put ice down at Continental or at the arena?
Now we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to get ice down on an arena for one day, and I don't know if you're going to get that if you're going to do it at Continental, right? What was Continental? Was that 18, 17, 18?
19,040. It was done on person. 1940.
Okay. So you're just not going to get the return. But what you are going to get is, I just think a parking lot experience of some kind. If you can make it work in Newark,
but why the Meadowlands? Why can't you do it in Newark? You could definitely do it in Newark. That's the point I was trying to make.
The walk just doesn't feel the same. Am I crazy?
Wait, what's
something
that?
just felt different. Like I've been to a parking lot experience in Newark, and it just felt very. I don't know if it was rushed or if it just didn't feel like. I don't know. It didn't feel like a tailgate. I've been to many tailgates in my day, and it just didn't feel the same. What I saw on Saturday felt like a tailgate. It felt like West Virginia University. It felt like when I used to go to the tailgates in Tampa for the Bucks games, and it felt like that.
Well, because you've got the
And it felt
bars
like the Devils.
nearby. I mean, it's. I don't know, Nick. I think. Look, I think we should rent out one parking lot for one game and try it out. Try it out. Our fans showed up at our tailgate. We'll put it out there. Be like, look, we're going to do a tailgate. Bring your car, whatever. Have it a Saturday night game. We all get that. Oh, we're not going to have that 6 hours prior to that BS of waiting in line to get in. Come in at noontime, set up, have fun. People come and go. That'd be great.
Can I say one thing that's probably going to make you upset?
What's that?
So the NHL did mismanage some of the timing of it. I'm very appreciative for my credential. But they told me I couldn't get into the parking lot until 5, when in reality I could have gotten in the parking lot like 6 a.m. So
it wouldn't matter. That thing was such a mess because, I mean.
Well, that's true. We would have.
That MetLife side. Go ahead.
We would have prepared an M, and they would have moved us at the same time.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, getting back to that, first off, that Meadowland security guy that came to us was awesome. He was very transparent.
Yeah. Everybody was really nice.
He was very transparent, even though I just, bitched about the pass before. He was very nice. He let me listen in to what his boss was telling him over the radio, which, was very thoughtful. I didn't think it was necessary for them to be zoned in on a bunch of Devils fans from the top of MetLife Stadium with binoculars. I think that was a little excessive. But, all they could have done is say, look, did you pay? Which we did. We prepaid. They could have scanned it and just let us find another parking space and just wait. But instead, they gave me 10 minutes or else, you're trespassing. It's like that's just completely not necessary,
Yeah.
And why don't you treat me like a human being instead of getting on your high horse? But that's the boss. That wasn't the guy that we met. And, we were escorted out and back in line. And, it was, it's just like what that Rangers fan said in that article. It left a really bad taste in your mouth, the way they conduct business there. And that's why I'm very appreciative of Prudential Center and the employees there, because they treat us like family there, for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get what we got in Newark. So
But I think one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing when it came to MetLife and the NHL. So I'm not going to point fingers who screwed up there, but at the same time, it's just it's not that hard, people.
I come out of this with only nice things to say about the entire experience. Great time.
Well, you didn't have to break down, and only given 10 minutes.
I did have to jump out of an Uber in the line and run through the cars to try to get to you. So,
yeah,
I'm not saying we are the same, but I did try to do my part.
Yeah.
But my last thought, Sam, I'm a little different than Steve in how I look at tomorrow's game.
Yep.
I do think they have to win this game, just because I think it's going to be so deflating if you lose that game too, and then you go into the stretch with worse opponents. But I get it. The Rangers are good, and they're on what are they on a 7-game or 8? They're an 8-game win streak. But you got to go in there to win. Before we go, do you think they're going to start? I'm going to say his name. Is it Poltier? Isaac Poltier?
I don't know, Polter. Let's call him Isaac.
Isaac. Are they going to start Isaac or Nico?
That's a good question. I think you got to go with Nico. You got to go with Nico.
Our friend Josh from his last name's escaping me. Josh from the Hockey Writers. Yeah, Josh Renitz made a good point on Twitter that sometimes you get these young goalies in there and they just don't understand the brevity of the moment, and that makes them play better. So, shout out to Josh, but I do think that that's a possibility that they can look at the situation and just say, hey, listen, like I go kid, like just see what happens. Like this is a kid that got his dreams have been answered. He has an NHL deal that he might not thought of had. Sorry, brain just like scrambled. He might not have thought that he'd ever have an NHL deal. Now he's an NHL deal, and he's in the NHL.
Yeah.
He's getting that NHL money for a couple of days, and he's earned it. He's been the best player in Utica, even better than Dawes was pretty good, but both Isaac was really good, and he's been consistent. And that's a Utica team that's just been pretty kind of bad defensively, and Isaac's been pretty good, and now you get the NHL shot. Do I think that he's going to be like this long-term fix? No, but I'll tell you what, Sam. In a couple of weeks, I'm doing my top 25 prospects, and he's going to be on it because he's still eligible. Because my eligibility is under 24, and I think he's 23. He's going to be on the list. I still think Dawes is the guy. I think Dawes is the guy that you look at. You're like, this is the future. I said it. I didn't get it. I gave up my mic for Chico. I wanted to kind of pat myself on the back, but I figured that wasn't good. Sorry, I almost used the word you hate. It wasn't good radio to pat myself on the back when we have Chico Rush here. But I really wanted to do it because I did call that I thought Nico Dawes was going to be the starter by the end of the season. And I did that to Chico. So I wanted to see if you remembered it. But there's talk today. It just seems like this Markstrom deal is going to happen. I just think it's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, Sam, I don't think it's going to include Vanacek. I think your tandem is going to be Vanacek. Here's one of two things is going to happen. If they don't trade Vanacek, which I don't think they're going to, I don't think the Flames want that, and I can't blame them. I think you're going to have Markstrom, and then either Vanacek is the backup, or Vanacek is now done for the season. He's going to get surgery on one of the ailments that he has that's hurt him this year, and Dawes is the backup for the rest of the year. I think one of those two things is going to happen. I do think the Markstrom deal is going to go down. I think it's good for the Devils. I think Markstrom's a good goalie. He's older, I get it, but he's only really had one bad season. And we've seen some goalies, we've seen Fleury have that one off season and then play well for 3 and then have one off, then play well for 4. And then, so I think Markstrom's young enough that he can be good for the time you need him to be good. If you think Dawes is the real deal, Dawes is still what? I think Dawes is 22 or 23.
23?
He's young, so he's got plenty of time. If you get Markstrom, he's your starter for 2.5 years, and then Dawes could take over after that, or you keep drafting goalies, and it's Malik, or it's Schmidt, or it's Tyler Brennan, this kid who's in Adirondack, who they used to have high hopes for, and there's a lot going on here, Sam, but I do think the Devils are in a better spot. And I wrote about this. I don't remember if I read it before last week's podcast, but I did write it last week. I do think that Tom Fitzgerald took back the momentum. I do think he has the leverage again, and I think that he is going to – I think the deal is going to surprise a lot of people, especially the fans of the team that's given up on the goalie. Can I say one thing? I know we're over, but are you surprised that the Gibson chatter just disappeared?
I just never thought he was realistic.
Because you think the price is too high?
Price is too high.
Yeah.
I
don't think he's good enough to have that price, and I think
and plus the salary cap, everything. It's all the above.
Because he's got what? He's got 3 more years after this one.
Yeah, and that's not question. That's not questioning his ability. That's just the economics behind it. How much you have to give up, which is an unrealistic, amount, plus what you're getting in return in terms of salary cap, years, commitment, all that kind of stuff. What if it doesn't work out? You lose badly. It's too risky a deal for Tom Fitzgerald. And even if he was lights out, after he would have to make that deal. Still, it's too big of a price to pay.
Yeah, I agree. But that's all I got, Sam.
Oh, okay. You got anything to plug?
Can I do plugs?
Yeah.
PucksandPitchforks.com. The other Nick just wrote a piece on PucksandPitchforks.com. He talked about who the Devils could play in the next Stadium Series and where it might be. So that was a fun one. We talked about Jersey Joe, talked about how Nico Dawes' ascension should save Alex Holtz in any trade. I talked about some former stud prospects that the Devils should be going after. Think about like Capo Caco, but he's not on the list just because he's a Rangers player. But like these stud prospects that are on the block that I think the Devils could turn into something really good. Vinny Parisi talked about the Seagathar coming back. Marcy Rubin talked about how Nico Dawes is now the starter moving forward. David Holliday talked about 2 trades that would actually move the needle to get to Nashville to move Yusei Saros. I talked about how we talked about the outdoor tailgate. I really like that outdoor tailgate story. I thought that was a really good one. And then Madison Hutchinson, new writer for pucksandpitchforks.com. She wrote about some key takeaways from the Stadium Series. Juliana Long, another new writer for pucksandpitchforks.com. She wrote about how Nico Hischier shows the impact of a true captain. So that's where I'll end. We write every day, folks. You have new content every single day. You should be able to read for hours on pucksandpitchforks.com. Sorry.
Said the C word.
New articles every single day.
Oh, perfect.
On pucksandpitchforks.com.
It's not the C word.
Sorry.
That's okay. Max, Super Chat, FanFest in playoffs. Felt like the tailgate do that. And also Ronaldo, thank you for the Super Chat. One thing I got to plug is I'll be at American Whiskey tomorrow for the Devils-Rangers game. Rangers suck fortune cookie night again. I'm going to bring all these Rangers suck fortune cookies. I'm probably going to be behind the bar talking a little trash to Rangers fans. Hey, I'm alone. The Beer Baron and Shorts Guy won't be there. Vinny's going to be in virtually. I'll be all by myself. I'm going to have Alejandro protect me.
She the bartender?
Yes.
She the same one? Like, I don't know. I'm not good at names, but she's been there for a while.
Yeah. Yep, Alejandro. Ask Steve Engel. All he ever does is ask for Alejandro in the chats.
I'm not going to comment on that, Sam.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, we're excited, though.
Yeah, we are excited, and hopefully it's going to be Devil's victory. All righty.
All
right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all those tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Prime, Audible, iHeart app, wherever you get our podcasts. Thank you, Nick. Thank you to everybody. Till next time, let's go Devils.